Hey, how's it going, guys? I realize the next week or so is going to be kind of slow in terms of content for the channel, so I thought it'd be a good time to do a more quote unquote for fun FGO list. I want to make it clear some of the servant ideas I'm presenting aren't meant to be taken super seriously. Most of these ideas just amount to shower thoughts I've thrown on paper and am now presenting to you. But without further ado, here are the top 5 servants I would like to see added to the game. So at number 5, we have Kaiju Altera and or Velber. So out of all the things on the list, I think this is one of the coolest as well as most probable servant ideas. So those of you who aren't aware, the Altera from the Fate Extella franchise is actually this weird kaiju thing locked in a room, and the smaller version of her we're more familiar with is basically a projection of herself, at least in the Fate Extra universe. Moving on to slightly more spoiler stuff, you find out later that Altera is actually this entity known as Velber, which is like this big world ending titan. I believe it's referenced in Lost Belt 5, although I don't know if that's Altera or if it's just a similar entity. Anyways, long exposition aside, I had this really cool idea where they could introduce Kaiju Altera into the game as like a new pretender. This works so well because you could have her first two forms appear as Kaiju Altera, who is like a relatively sweet and harmless character, before having the big quote unquote plot twist where her third form is actually Velber. I think it's a reasonable idea that introduces something new and exciting to the game, and I also think it's a great use of the new Pretender class. So at number 4, we have Amaterasu. Amaterasu is one of my favorite historical slash mythological figures. She's portrayed in a lot of media from like video games, card games, novels, etc., etc. However, I distinctly remember there was this class in university I had to take wherein I had to present various topics speaking only Japanese, and my common go to for topics was Japanese folklore. My very first presentation was the story where Amaterasu locks herself in a cave, and all these other kami are trying like these various methods to lure her back out. It's a relatively simple story, but it was like my first real introduction into Shinto folklore, which would later go on to be one of my favorite things to study. So there's some sentimental value to my reasoning, but I also think FGO's take on the character would result in something cool and unique. Really, any Japanese kami would be cool to see, but I think Amaterasu would be the coolest by far. Not to mention that there is already some pre existing groundwork within the lore that would help justify her being added. For number 3, we have the rest of the Sakura 5. So, for those of you who don't know, the Sakura 5 refers to the 5 alter egos that BB made in the Fate Extra series. As of right now, we have Passion Lips, Melt, and King Protea in the game, meaning that we are missing Violet and Kazura Drop. The latter of the two has already made a pseudo appearance in the story. It wasn't technically Kazura Drop, but the fact that we've gotten a character that looks like her is a good indication that she will probably be added to the game at some point. I don't think Violet has been hinted at being added yet, but I can't imagine they add 4 of the 5 alter egos and then go on to not add Violet. So I think it's pretty safe to assume she's also a if not when addition to the game. At number 2, we have Shieru. You'll have to excuse me using her Japanese pronunciation. I've never heard anyone pronounce her name in English. I assume it's just Seal, but I don't want to sound stupid, so I'm just going to keep saying Shieru. Anyways, for those of you who don't know, she's a main character in Tsukihime, being the focal point of one of the main routes in the game. I recently played the original Tsukihime, and there's just something about this character that really struck a chord with me. In fact, I did Shieru's route before doing arcs, and it led me to this situation where I had to do arcs playthrough in multiple spread out segments. There is a duality in Arc and Seal's playthrough wherein siding with one means you're betraying the other, and I got so emotionally attached to Shieru that it made it difficult for me to betray the character, which is kind of a testament to how well she's written in the game. To me, Shieru's also another if not win character on this list. I fully believe her and most of the other Tsukihime characters are going to be added to the game at some point. Maybe there'll be a focal point to the story after the Lost Belts wrap up, we'll just have to wait and see. So at number 1, we have someone that I've been on about for a while now. I think it's absolutely genius, despite it probably being the stupidest thing you'll hear today. I want to make a quick disclaimer that this is not something I think they would actually add to the game, but I think it's a neat idea nonetheless. So, next up, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Rocky Balboa. Yes, I'm talking about the fictional wrestler, and no, I'm not on any hallucinogens. We already have plenty of like fictional characters as servants. I mean, for the love of God, we have a book as a servant. So I don't see a reason, aside from copyright issues, and I don't think the property's old enough, but I don't see a reason this can't be a thing. Like, just imagine it. It could be a whole event. We got the 5-star Rocky Balboa on Rate Up, along with the Apollo Creed event welfare, and then we can have some other fuckboy as the Rate Up 4-star. Like, it's free money, Delightworks. Get your shit together. Come on. Again, I think most people will think I'm trolling with this, but I genuinely want to be able to look at Wodamine in the eyes after he's procced my, 100th instance of guts on Rocky and say, I might be down, Wodamine, but I ain't out. And then use my, Super Orion-esque MP to just completely obliterate him with crits. Now, is this likely to ever happen? No, most definitely not. But a boy is allowed to dream, and if I could have one servant added to the game, this would definitely be it. Anyways, that about wraps up this video. When I started making this video, I figured I'd have a lot more goofy picks, but I was surprised to see that 4 out of the 5 servants that I presented actually have a pretty good chance of being added to the game. It's a crime that the best of them isn't really in the running, but who knows, the world is a crazy place and you never know what's going to happen. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you again in the next one. Later.